Hello friends, here I am with a new video about the Samyang 16mm f2.0. My name is Gerhard Ochsenfeld and I think you will remember that I had promised to present a video about this lens. If you know my video about the Canon EF35mm f2.0, a minor wide-angle lens that I use as a premium standard lens for APS-C cameras, then offering an equivalent of 56mm and coming along like a renaissance of the former Canon FD 55mm f1.2. Theme of this video is the Samyang 16mm f2.0, a lens of simple and really unadorned appearance. It doesn't compare with the Samyang 10mm f2.8. The 16mm lens is big but not very impressive. The removable lens hood is a comfortable detail in transportation. These two lenses are really brothers, while both lenses are specially made for APS-C sensors only. So let us see if the 16mm does at least do a good job or even fail in the shadow of its little brother. The Samyang 16mm f2.0 is a full-frame equivalent of 24mm if used with Nikon or Sony and a 25.6mm in use with Canon EOS. 4/3 may have an equivalent of 30 or 32mm. Seems as if Samyang prefers many letters and long names. The lens is called 16mm f2.0 ED-AS-UMC-CS. The back lens next to the camera's sensor is made of extra-low dispersion glass. Two spherical lenses took their weight to this name. Samyang's ultra-multi-coating system minimizes flares and ghosting. CS means simply coating system. Including a wide and smooth inner focal system, Samyang has done everything to create a brilliant optical tool. Maybe something around 150 degrees offer a comfortable and exact focusing between infinity and down to only 20 centimeters or 2/3 of a foot. Don't think so. I had not been in Syria. This is the result of controlled demolition of an office building. I found this in Essen, so let me go back to Essen, the city in the so-called Ruhrgebiet you might remember from my video about the Canon EF 35mm f2.0. I took both of these photographies by using the Samyang 16mm f2.0. See some details. I did not correct the distortion, I did only reduce the extreme contrast. By the way, and when I was on the way to my next location, an interesting administration building from the year 1929, taken in 2016 with a Samyang 16mm f2.0. Look at some nice and clear details here as well. You remember this location from my review about the Canon EF 35mm f2.0? Now let me go back to the view taken with Samyang's wide-angle lens 16mm, specially constructed for APS-C sensors. Let us have a look at one of the exposures. At 100%, maybe it is not enough to identify the person passing the street while the traffic light induces anyone else not to walk. However, we can clearly see that it was 9:35 AM. This is a very nice detail at an aperture of 6.7. Details in the far background, example given the high voltage lines, are not razor sharp, but keep an astonishing clarity. Compared to my exposures once taken with the Canon EF 35mm f2.0, we know more details. However, taken with a Samyang 60mm, those details are not 1/3 of the size than taken with 35mm. Another interesting matter we should have a look at are geometrical results. At first glance, the top of the building seems to blow away extremely. A look at the bottom of the building shows that the front is not parallel to the sensor plane. Furthermore, at a distance of 60 meters, this building is not under 50 meters high. So this can't surprise as a weakness of the lens. However, there is a bulge. Here I take the blue-colored details from the middle as reference. At the left edge you can see that the building in the background is not so bulgy as the building in 60 meters of distance. But even at the edge of the building, distortion is not very strong and makes me curious. I did want to have another test. On the way to another location, there was a further interesting opportunity for the Samyang 16mm f2.0 to prove itself. Because of the very dark shadow under the white capony, at the same time it was a raw format that made this exposure not a failure but a great deal. For this result I did not correct anything but only the extreme contrast. So next, at another location in Essen, I took this photography only to, well, let me say, to be able to analyze the geometrical behavior of this lens. First, however, let me have a look at the chromatic aberrations that are not too strong and can easily be corrected. The building is not positioned completely parallel to the street, so the horizontal lines are sloping a little. Nothing does uncover the convex distortion as good as sloping horizontal lines when mounting a line in post-production for an objective comparison. Especially for this example, correcting the bulgy distortion with only plus 1.6% in Photoshop was enough to reach the best compromise between vertical and sloping horizontal lines. You might call this nothing but pixel peeping. I simply try to give unprejudiced information, while I am convinced that this lens is a tool for photographers that want or need to come up to highest expectations. If you need the best and anything that is possible, example given for bigger posters hanging on the wall or printed in magazines, then it means to satisfy highest standards. Details like these in the distance are clear enough. The bridge of the highway is nearly 4 kilometers away. The TV tower and the water tower at the horizon are at a distance of more than 5 kilometers. The bridge on a photo with 100 millimeters, those towers taken with 200 millimeters. You can see by far more details. However, taken with a Samyang 16mm, this photography shows all these details as part of the landscape and no doubt even clear enough to recognize. For this photography, let me show you the ghosting. Sun was shining brightly, particularly shaded by some very thin clouds. The sun being part of the photography, reflections are by far very low. However, you should be able to learn more about Samyang's coating system by watching some more examples with lens flares and ghosting. The sun shining directly into the front lens, reflections are still modest and restrained. So you can see that this lens is not tricky but true. More about this example in my next video. When coming up really close to your subject, the Samyang 60mm f2.0 fills more and more with enthusiasm. In my opinion, this lens manages a nice and soft blurring in any distance and in any grade. The details are astonishing and fascinating at the shortest focal distance of 20 centimeters or 2/3 of a foot. When reviewing the Samyang 10mm f2.8, I told you that in my opinion it was not a relevant detail that you can't use the ultra-wide angle lens with filters. Later, however, and when using the Samyang 16mm f2.0, there was a situation that I was really glad to know the Samyang 60mm prepared to be used with filters. You remember the bio-baker Enrique Rosales from my videos about the Canon lenses EF-S 24mm STM and EF-35mm f2.0 IS-USM. Here I used a gray filter with a density of 3 aperture stops, and inside the market stand I set 2 compact flashes to light up the inside of the market stand. So far for now and about the Samyang 16mm f2.0. For some bonus material and for detailed comparisons, especially from testing the apertures step by step, please watch my additional video about the Samyang 16mm f2.0. Thank you for watching and goodbye.